So, as you might have noticed, if you're looking around in the web design template that we now have, that we spent yesterday configuring, there's a lot of very technical pieces that even I don't understand, okay? So, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of code that is like present in front of your faces, it's totally normal, makes perfect sense. Later, please. We're going to keep it really simple and take what we know about HTML and continue to apply it just in a little bit of a different spot. So what you're going to be doing today is practicing the HTML that you remember. I've added cheat sheets for HTML right here, and then we'll get into Tailwind and React as we use more of this templates because it is made up primarily of those three languages. But I want to show you specifically where you can start putting your HTML now that we have a spot for it. I also want to do a little demonstration of deploying your page so you can see how it works now that we have something called a React framework. But we'll take this one thing at a time, okay? So if we are opening our VS Code, you want to make sure that the folder you have open is the one for May and not the class project template release, okay? So if you look up at the top of my Explorer, it says class project template release right now. I want to open the old one, okay? By going File, Open Folder, like normal, and I want to make sure I open 4th period for May Blakeney, which is this guy right here. I'm going to click Select Folder, and it's not going to have anything open automatically, because this is probably the first time we've opened up a folder like this. Okay, so all of our HTML lives in this folder right here called app. So if you're following along with me or following along with the video a little bit later, instead of creating quote-unquote web pages, what we're actually making is little JavaScript apps. Just the way these JavaScript apps behave is like a website after we do some stuff that connects it to other things. But anyways, all of your code, the way that we've been doing HTML previously, now lives in this app section right here. So if you expand that, you're going to notice there's a bunch of these little like atomic looking icons, and they end in the file name TSX, right? Y'all seeing that? If you're looking on your own or if you're looking on my screen share, right? You see all these pages that have, or all these things that say TSX, but you're also going to see, anytime you see a triangle, it means it's a folder. It's all going to be folders that relate to the names of the pages, okay? This is really hard to visualize without the actual output. So let's use our terminal real quick to get that output running. Same steps as yesterday. You might have to click the 3 dots up here and go Terminal, New Terminal. Make sure that you change PowerShell to Command Prompt like you did yesterday. Really, really well. And we're going to start our car, right? By starting our car, we're going to leave it running, which is not typically what you do with a car, right? But while you're driving in web design and making these pages, you want your car to be on so that you can see the actual result. So the command to get your server running is this 9-letter one, npm run dev, dev, right? Then once you hit enter, remember this is where you're looking for the purple triangle and then the 2 green check marks. We've now started our server. We've turned our car on. Jig Trout, what's up? So you'll just go File, Open Folder. Did you make a copy for May yesterday? You open up the May copy, and then it's going to look exactly the same, but we want our stuff to be in May, so we have the template for later. Okay? So now we've got our purple triangle, which means our server is running. You can see this Next.js. We can hold the Control key and click on localhost 3000, this one right here at the top. Yours might have a different set of 4 numbers, but my localhost is 3000. And that's going to pull up our output. Mine looks a little angry. Let's see why. Okay, this is what the template looks like, right? We remember this. It says Blakeney example in 4th period because that's the change I made to the template before I copied it. Yours will probably say get started by editing app/page TSX. What you can do here is split your screen. Let me resize this so the Firefox is a little bit smaller on the right so you can see as much as possible on the screen. Okay. React will do a lot of the thinking for you. Yeah, you have a question before I go forward. Huh? Okay, so what we've done so far is open a new terminal and made sure it's in Command Prompt and then typed npm run dev. After you've done that, it's the purple triangle or purple-ish triangle to get to here. I can check with you in a second, but I'm going to keep pressing forward after this part right here. So I mentioned that React this language that we're practicing now will do a lot of the thinking for you. It does that via these components and via all this fancy looking code, okay? If you click on these little, or if you have your output open as well, hi. You click on these lines, that's going to expand, or it's supposed to expand. I don't know why it's not working. Okay. I'll have to, hi Red, welcome in. I'll have to figure that out later. So my thing is not working the way it's supposed to. But we talked a while ago about a navigation bar. What are some of the things that you are, this is not a trick question, what are some of the things you're noticing across the top here? What is this page called that I'm hovering over? Docs. What's about the next one? What about the next one? Okay. Keep that in mind. What does this say right here? What does this say? You're right. Every time you create a new page on your site, for example, if I go to the docs page and it thinks for a second with all the celebrations, right? Or if I go to the pricing page, it's got to finish celebrating for just a second. It shows you some things that are on there. Each one of these is its own separate folder. So how do we get to the home page? The home page did not have a folder within this app drawer. That's because the home page is always going to be the one called page.tsx inside of the app folder. So let me see if my drawing thing works real quick. Let's find out real quick. All right, so it does. This is the site. Okay, bless you. And page.tsx inside of the app folder is the same thing as index.html. Okay, from forever ago when we made our root folders, index.html is always going to be page.tsx inside of the app folder. So anytime you make another page, for example like these, they live in their own subfolder. So other pages equals folder. Okay, hopefully my marker handwriting is clear to see later on. Okay, so why am I telling you this? It's because I only want us to focus on this page.tsx file today. All right. So I'm going to zoom out. We're going to make our terminal just a little bit smaller. We don't need all this info right now. You don't want to put it all the way down because that'll close it. But now we can see a whole bunch of code that's really overwhelming that we're going to ignore until we start seeing things that we recognize. Okay? That's the main strategy I want you guys to use going forward as we translate old HTML into new React, is look for what you recognize. Okay? We've done lots of divs before. We haven't done a lot of spans, but we've talked about sections. We've talked about paragraphs. We've talked about tables. We've talked about those different HTML pieces that still work the way that you remember, just with a couple extra features. What do you notice, though, about the color of these? When I double-click on the div and it highlights a bunch of them, what do you notice about the color? It's what we're used to, right? It's blue. Okay. What about the confetti button guy right here? It's kind of the greenish color. This is a new color we haven't seen yet. Okay. Anytime you see this green thing, anytime it's this kind of default greenish, minty kind of color, that is using some of our new code. Some of the stuff up here that we won't get into today. Okay. When you want to start writing your code, as you remember with HTML, Hugo, I hope that's not your phone that you were charging. Is that the phone you said you were charging? Okay. It's got to be charging over at the charging station, bro. That's why that's why I have that. Okay. We'll move it in a second. If y'all are opening alongside me, do you see this return part right here? This purple return. It's around line 19. This is kind of the same thing as our HTML start tag. And I'll leave a little comment right here. Same thing as the HTML start tag. And my code's going to get really mad at me for a second. Start tag. Okay? So, in order to make my code happy again, I want to turn this into a comment. Hi. You do that by going Ctrl/, and it should make the the page happy again. Okay, so now if you wanted to add HTML as we've practiced, it's got to be within this return container right here. That's why I was making such an emphasis on everything being in containers, because that's how just web design and computers are able to understand all these pieces. Ignore all this. Anything that's up here that looks scary or looks like a lot of coding, ignore that. What you can do, though, because this is a template and because we have a specific copy saved for later, is you can basically take everything out of the return bucket and mess around, excuse me, mess around with HTML like you remember. Okay, so let me show you what that would look like. Because we have a server running, because our page is running locally on our internet right here, if I were to take everything inside of the purple parentheses, you can do this too, okay, and delete it, my code might get a little mad for a second, but it should still run. Hopefully it didn't break. Nope, it broke. This might happen, okay? React tends to be a little bit on the fragile side, which is why the commenting shortcut is going to be really, really helpful as you figure these things out, okay? So if I wanted to look for where my stuff was starting to not be very functional, right? I think it's a lot of the stuff up here. We're going to comment that out and see if that fixes it. Why are we mad? Okay, let's bring use state, or anything that's got a red underline, I'm just going to comment out for the time being. So all of this, because we want to get our page running like it used to. Okay, hang on. So let's add a little paragraph right here for test. It's not got anything to run. Okay. Now when we go back to the home page, all the content that was in the middle, let me shut this door real quick. All the content that was in the middle of the page has now just been reduced to this test element that we put right here like we used to. Okay? I'm having you just disable these for now because we'll get into them later. It's way too much information to all try and figure out all at once. Let's apply what we know to what is new and start practicing using this new template. Okay? How can you practice using this new template? If you go to the Canvas resources, number one, there's an HTML cheat sheet right here with a whole bunch of cool stuff that is copy and pastable and is a good reminder for what is possible within HTML. Okay? Tags, you remember those are our sandwiches. We haven't talked about those in a while. They turn into elements, right? You need a piece of bread, ingredients in the middle in order for them to work. And then if you wanted to bring something specific into your page, like an unordered list, for example, you can click on this guy, copy it, Ctrl+C, paste it inside of the return function, Ctrl+V. Let's see why it's mad. Why are you mad at me? All right, let's try putting it in a div instead. Maybe it needs a container that it's missing out on. So we're going to go div and then Ctrl+V. Now it works. Okay, so what I'd like y'all to do today is use this HTML cheat sheet and start putting some things inside of this return function, trying to troubleshoot as much as you can, okay? I think mine is set to autosave. I'm gonna turn that off real quick. If I go to my output again, which is on this tab, there's a list of first, second, third things that I can style with Tailwind, but we'll worry about that a little bit later. To recap, I don't want to spend the whole day talking because I know y'all want to not hear me do that either. Whenever you're trying to edit the old version of your index, it's this guy right here, okay? Index lives inside of the app folder, and it's the file called page.tsx, okay? Because we're using a template, and because I have a copy saved, you can delete everything. We'll just go delete all in between the return parentheses, okay? And then this section right here is very, very similar as the HTML start tag that we're used to, okay? Anytime you want to turn something off, like a switch, you want to leave a comment, and you leave a comment by going CTRL plus the slash icon, and it will comment out the whole line, okay? And you can think of this like a lever in Minecraft, toggles things on and off. So what I'm asking, before you do your exit task a little bit later today, what I'm asking is for you to use this HTML cheat sheet, have your May folder open, clear out everything inside of the return function on page.tsx, and see if you can get things to work again, as you remember. When you're done and you want to close down your server, you can see a whole bunch of little notifications as our computer's doing some thinking for us. You hold Control and press C until you see the word terminate. Then it's going to ask you yes or no. We want to turn off our server. So yes, we do want to terminate by hitting Y, hitting enter. And now our server, when we go back to the page, if we refresh, will no longer be working. Okay? Keep it really, really simple. Ignore a lot of the things that don't make sense to you at the moment. Take what you know, apply it in this new way that I've shown you, and I'll be walking around to help you. Okay? Does that make sense? That's all I need you to do for today, because we don't have time this week to start a full-blown project. We need some practice. Okay. Let me end this video, and then I'll be walking around. Give me just a second.